Hey, Lighthouse, let's open up to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, and look at verse 9 and the parable that starts there. Just a few more days in the parables, and then we'll jump somewhere else. It's always good to start our day together. I'd like to remind you to read the scriptures on your own without me. If you only have 10 minutes to be with God, certainly don't be on YouTube, but rather find a quiet place and meditate on the Word of God. If you have some extra time to spend with me, that is absolutely lovely. I love doing devotions with you each morning. If you have questions for our Friday videos, it's questions@lighthousebaptist.net. And I'd also like to invite you, if you're not a member of Lighthouse or don't come to Lighthouse, but are on the Monterey Peninsula and don't have a home church, we'd love to see you Sundays at 10 a.m. Okay, well, as we continue to go through the parables, this parable of the tax collector and the Pharisee praying in church is so profound to me, because you'll notice that the Pharisee actually is somebody that we would admire for the way he lives. He does good things and he knows it, and he does good things on purpose, and he does religious things, and he's probably a stand-up person in the community. This tax collector is somebody that we would not admire. He rips people off. He does not have a good reputation. We would look down on him because he deserves to be looked down on, I guess. And yet Jesus again wants to put this down in front of us and say, think about this, and this needs to offend you. If you're thinking at all about putting yourself in this story, man, I actually walk away going, I don't want to be either one of these guys. I don't want to be the sinner who is just repenting because I've just done a billion bad things. I also don't want to be the arrogant tax collector. And so you kind of look at it and go, man, what am I supposed to do with a story like this? Well, let's think about what we're supposed to do with a story like this. Verse 9 says, and he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. Okay, so this is not going to be about the moral or immoral things that these two men do. This is going to be about people who trust in themselves that they are righteous. Like, we need to give up on that as an idea even, right? That you and I, in and of ourselves, apart from the blood of Christ, apart from trusting in God, could be righteous. Like, there's no way to be right with God. In fact, a right understanding is the more you try to make moral perfection, you build some legalism, some law, and then try to stick to it. The more you try to lean on that, the more frustration you will encounter, because that's no way to get right with God. And I think we all build little legalisms, little laws all over the place, whether it's, New Year's resolution kind of stuff. I'm going to stop drinking, smoking, eating, fast food, whatever it is. Or I'm going to start, a devotional habit. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray, whatever it is. We can very soon start trusting that our identity, the way we feel about ourselves, is all wrapped up in us doing, us being good, us avoiding sin. So Jesus tells this parable to those who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. So not only is this somebody who's built a law and is trying to become right with God through that law, but in doing so, they have also began to view other people with contempt. I think we talk about this a lot, but we have a whole culture that's designed to try to get you to pick a side in all kinds of ways and then look at the other side with contempt. We see it all over the place in simple and silly things like sports. Oh, that team's bad and my team's good. We see it in things like political rivalries. We see it in ideological rivalries. We see it in sibling rivalry. We're always trying to say, my way makes me good and their way makes them bad. I have built a law that makes me confident in myself that I am righteous, and I look with contempt on my neighbor. The thing that's challenging about this parable, though, is that both of these men have reason to feel about themselves like they do. And it's hard to know how to feel about yourself. It's like, is pride a bad thing? Is it bad to be proud that you are, say, avoiding sin? Well, it's not a bad thing to be happy that you're avoiding sin. But as soon as you say, and this makes me good, man, pride is so pervasive and it wants our attention so much. So 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. This would have been just a scene that could have happened any day of the week. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. So I'm so glad, God, that you made me as awesome as I am. But not only that, he says, and I live awesome. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, so this guy, before we get to the tax collector, this guy, through his lens, had good reason to say, God, you are so lucky to have me. And he stands there with his chest puffed up and standing, like preaching to everyone who can hear this prayer about what makes him righteous. It is not bad that he does good things. It is bad for him to think that these good things are a means to righteousness. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but he beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Can I tell you that God is always happy to be merciful to a sinner, but Pharisees are never happy to be merciful to sinners. The problem with this Pharisee is he does not view people like God views people. He doesn't view himself like God views him, and he doesn't view this tax collector like God views the tax collector. God is happy to give mercy to this repentant man. The tax collector clearly is not. God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Then Jesus says, I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. That's that reversal that we've seen over and over in the parables. Last shall be first, first shall be last. The humble will be exalted, the exalted will be humbled. We want to be exalted. We want to have a full heart and not feel bad about ourselves. The question is, are we going to do that by building a law that we can fulfill? Or are we going to do that by throwing ourselves at the mercy of God? Jesus is not affirming the tax collector's lifestyle, but he's affirming the fact that the way we become justified before God is by agreeing with him about the depravity of our own heart. So, don't think bad about yourself. Don't think good about yourself. In fact, it's a good idea not to think about yourself that much at all. And instead, to spend your time reflecting the mercy of God to the people around you. And if there's sin in your life, throw yourself at the mercy of God. He's happy to give you mercy. All right, be loved.